everyone.
No, that's not.
That's at least 50% of his class has his grade or lower. Is moving towards everything race.
And the police comes and they say, well, we can't do anything.
Of course, all opinions are my own, not my employer's.
Period. Hello, it's Wednesday and it's time for Pop and Politics. Tonight we are back with the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co-hosts. So, of course, we have Shelly E, we have Yana, and T. Tonight, Xandria is out today, but she will be back next week. Tonight, we are also joined by Tyrone Keys, finance and economic analyst with Money Changes Everything. All right. Tyrone will start us off at the top of our news segment in just a moment. But, I got to talk to you guys. I have to talk to the audience. Again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. Again, you guys know we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, let's set it off. So we are going to start off, as I mentioned earlier, with Tyrone Keys. Excited to have you on tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes. So we're starting off with this, as we're going to talk about Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Elon Musk. So as 2021 draws to a close, Senator Warren launched a Twitter attack against SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Time magazine, as you guys may know, has named Elon Musk Person of the Year for 2021. However, Warren decided instead of celebrating Musk's accomplishments, she'd go to war with him in a surprise move. So she launched an opening shot by tweeting, "Let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off everyone else." So, Tyrone, I want to turn to you. Is Elizabeth Warren's attack worthy?
Well, I think Elon, he really summed it up very well in pointing back at Senator Warren as someone who has not contributed very much to society at all. And it was funny that she chose to use the term freeloader, because remember, this is a woman who pretended to be a Native American, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Native American, one of the whitest people I've ever seen in my life. And she's parading around, not just saying, hey, what was her name? Rachel Dolezal. She said she was Black, but Rachel Dolezal didn't go to universities and get jobs, tenure, pomp and circumstance, and maybe even a few votes for her senatorial campaign based on that lie. So it's funny she would use a word like freeloading because she's projecting. And then, look, at this point in America's history, I don't have a lot of respect or admiration for most politicians. If politics were the answer, then we would not have so many problems right now. The answer lies in economics. When immigrants come to this country, they do not come here en masse with the thought in their mind of, I'm going to run for office. They come here with the mindset of economic viability. So and if we look at some of the immigrant communities, we see that in many ways they're doing very well economically. You take Nigerians, for example. Nigerian Americans actually have the highest per capita amount of master's degrees in the country as a subset of Americans. You take immigrants from India, they control the motel sector of the American economy. Bravo to them. So Elizabeth Warren, like so many politicians, they do not. Politics is kind of like the new hustle. You can either be a criminal, but if you don't have the guts to do that, you don't, want to end up in prison. Okay, fine. Maybe you can look toward the 501c3 mafia. That's an option. Then there's also the ministry. Not indicting everyone, but that's a popular hustle. And then you've got politics. So this is what Elizabeth Warren is. Pramila Jayapal, she's a congresswoman. She decided that seeing what happened to Elizabeth Warren, she would try her hand at indicting Elon Musk. He hasn't responded to her at this point. I think he just feels as though she's beneath his notice at all. So he might not respond. But
let me jump in there because I wanted to get Shelly in on this.
Sure.
What are your thoughts? What question did you have for Tyrone as far as this is concerned?
So Tyrone, this is what I always ask. Why are politicians, why are they so easily or seemingly believed by so many people when at least half of the country, we know that it's economics, and even some of the other half know that, but yet there's this haze that comes over many people when they hear the word politician or legislator, and they just kind of lose all perspective. How does that happen?
Well, I think one of the contributing factors is the same kind of thing that leads to celebrity worship. You see, or certain people see, an individual inside of a box and they're talking and they're sounding erudite, and they tend to, like Leonardo DiCaprio. This guy is a phenomenal actor. He's one of my favorite actors, but he's an actor. I don't listen to anything he has to say on the subject of global warming. He spoke at the UN. They gave him a false sense of legitimacy for that. So this is what happens with a lot of politicians. You see the guy on Meet the Press and, you're impressed. So that's where they get this false sense of legitimacy from. But I think that's starting to wear thin with society.
Mm-hmm. And Yana, I want to get you in here as far as this whole beef going on between Elon Musk and Warren, Elizabeth Warren. What question did you have for Tyrone?
Well, first of all, I just have a comment about Elizabeth Warren saying that Elon Musk is a freeloader when she's a politician and she gets paid by taxpayers. So who is really the freeloader here? And I'm just wondering if Tyrone can talk about taxes. And we hear from politicians that there has to be an increase in taxes on, I guess, wealthier people. And we do have a progressive tax in America, as I understand. Like the more money you make, the more the percentage grows. What do you think about that? Is that something that you agree with, or should there be a flat tax?
Well, I do like the idea of a flat tax. I believe that when you look at Elon Musk, look at his situation specifically. Now, he made the decision to liquidate a certain amount of stocks that resulted in about a $12 billion tax bill for this year. Okay. So what he could have done, Elon Musk could have, and a lot of wealthy people choose to do this, and it's a smart idea. He could have taken out loans using his equity in Tesla as collateral for the loans. Now, loan proceeds are not taxable. So if he wanted to increase his lifestyle, he could have easily done that. But instead, he chose to go ahead and liquidate. And as a result, he was hit with the capital gains tax. I don't even think that most of the people in Congress Understand that. Now, it's funny that we're talking about taxes because just yesterday, Maryland announced that they're going to increase the property assessment tax for residential and commercial properties by 12%. This is as a result of not being able to collect on revenues, tax revenues,
Wow.
in 2020, thanks to Hogan's decision to shut down the economy. But I believe that when you look at the amount of money, if you really look at the amount of money that the wealthy are paying, it eclipses the amount of money paid by the middle class. And let me just say this really quickly. One of the things that politicians will do to demonize wealthy people is they'll use the term loophole. There's no such thing as a tax loophole. There are tax advantages written into the tax code by law. And if any of these disingenuous politicians want to change that, they can write some legislation. But they never do because oftentimes they're taking advantage of the same tax advantages.
Wow. Okay. And T, I know you had a question you wanted to ask in regards to this. This is crazy, this tax policy, and with Warren going at Elon Musk. What's your question for Tyrone?
Yeah, I guess you kind of answered it just then, but I wanted to know, what is the problem? What is the issue? What is the hate or the beef in her, or not only her, but other people going after people who take advantage of the tax policies that we actually have and we all can advantage of? So what is the issue, and what are, if you can name like some of those things that we can all benefit from? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, Trump didn't pay his taxes, but there are ways that we don't have to, we can still be within our legal rights to paying or not paying, and bankruptcy and those types of things. You know what I'm saying? So what's the beef, and what are some of those things that we can take advantage of?
It's a good question. I think that certain politicians find political mileage in the demonization of, various groups, the wealthy being one of them. And it's really unfortunate because what we should be doing as a society is we should have curriculums as early as grade school that teach people about taxes, amortization, equity. And I'm not talking about the equity that is so popular today. I'm talking about actual money. So in terms of things that people can do, the first thing I would suggest is the easiest thing for most Americans to do in terms of taking advantage of some of the advantages that are out there in the tax code. Most Americans are W-2 employees. They have the tax deferred programs, the qualified plans like the 401k, the IRA, which if you put money into up to a certain amount, it will reduce your tax liability in the here and now. Now, what you've got to do is you got to be careful with that because taxes are going to be higher in the future when your tax liability will be assessed on those qualified plans. So there are other options out there to help you mitigate that, like insurance policies. Everybody always thinks about death when they talk about insurance policies, but the reality is most insurance policies are meant for you to enjoy here while you're on the earth. So that's one thing. The other thing real quick is if people have any desire or ever had any inkling of becoming a business owner, then they should really explore doing that because then the tax advantages really open up for them.
All right. Well, definitely you've given some really good advice there, and just we'll continue to follow this kind of this banter back and forth because this is something that the left has been doing and continues to do. They create this class warfare, and one of the things they do talk about is the tax policy. So we will, folks, if you guys are watching for the first time or seeing Tyrone for the first time, he will be on every the last Wednesday of each month. He will be on at the top of our show to give us advice on economics and finance and just talk about the trending topics in news and pop culture involving finance and economics. So definitely we will have him back on. Definitely tune in for him to come back on the last Wednesday of each month. And you can also find him on YouTube. We had his YouTube set up. Oh, there it is. Money Changes Everything now, YouTube. So definitely go on there, subscribe, check him out for even more in-depth analysis and advice. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
Have a happy new year.
You do
Happy New Year, Tyrone.
Thank you
Alright.
so much.
All right.
He
So
got the keys.
yes. Okay. So we are moving right along. So today's show is going to be a little different. So we are counting down the year's most popular moments that we've had on Pop and Politics. All right. So
This is the anniversary show, right?
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, this is our anniversary show.
Yeah.
One year.
1 year.
Yes, 1 year. So definitely excited about that. We have so much in store for you guys as you continue to support us and watch. Again, if you haven't done so already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Subscribe. Go to our YouTube, go to our Facebook. We are on Instagram, but definitely Facebook and YouTube. And hit that like button because we will continue to put out content and you get the most up-to-date content when you subscribe. You find out when we go live. This is streaming live. So definitely check us out. All right, so we are starting off our first clip for the night from a recent show. We had Kingdom Conservative Party on. The group, Bevelyn Beatty, was on last week with Ed May and her husband, Ricky Williams. Check out this clip. I want to get your thoughts.
I'm not saying this to mock you or religion, but what I'm hearing, some people would say it sounds like you want the authoritarian state just like they have in Iran, because Iran has a religious government. I'm not saying that their religion is something that I agree with, but the methods and the policies that they use are very much authoritarian and strict. So they would say that they are following no abortion, no homosexuality, or definitely no homosexual marriage. So where's the difference?
Answer that, baby.
Okay, so Shelly, what you have to understand, this is not about a theocracy. So if you understand American history, if you ever get an opportunity to really go into American history and the Christianity that many of the founding fathers had, even Black founding fathers had, a lot of them were reverends and pastors. So they had godly principles. So even back then, they were pushing good Bible-based morals. So abortion, homosexuality, those things were preached out publicly in the streets, saying this is wrong, this is not of God. And
abortion?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
All right. So that was from last week where we had them on. And basically they were, the question we kept asking was, is this a theocracy? They've started this new political party where they have made center Christianity. So actually, let me rephrase that. It's a political PAC where they are supporting candidates based off of them being Christians and following biblical principles. And so we had the question, is this a theocracy? And so I want to start with you, Shelly, because we didn't get a chance to really, talk about that episode. What was your takeaway from that moment that we just played?
Well, again, last week they came on, they attempted to explain their party or their PAC, which they said is going to be a party once they have, I think, 3 candidates in 3 different states. And that's fine. America, this is America. We all have a right to start PACs and join whatever party. I don't think that they were clear in what their policies were going to be and how they were at least going to implement them. Now, on their website, they do have a number of policy areas or issues that they want to address, all fine and good. I just don't think that they are articulating how they're going to implement them in real life, in real time.
Okay. And Yana, I want to get your feedback on that clip.
Well, I have to say it was a very interesting discussion. I think it's great that what they're doing, and they're also a necessary voice because opinions like theirs are not popular at this point. Even in our Republican Party, it's becoming unpopular to have these kind of opinions of having really strong religious beliefs and having government, based on that. And I read recently then that John Adams said, so he was our second president and he was one of the founding fathers. He said, our Constitution was made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. So, based on the history of the United States, I have to agree that we have to have this religious base at the core of our country, because otherwise it's going to fall apart, and it's been falling apart. And another historical fact that I recently found out, that even in 1870s there were already people who were trying to break these religious doctrines. And there was a lady named Victoria Claflin Woodhull. She actually ran for president in 1872. This was before even women got the right to vote. And she was advocating for things like free love, and that there shouldn't be marriage. And she was publishing Karl Marx at the time. Like Karl Marx's uh, his writings, she was publishing them in the United States in 1870s. So people have been undermining, our founding fathers' ideas about what this country should be from, for a while now.
Okay. And I mean, it's interesting you said that, because I looked up that I found that quote too from John Adams. I kind of agree with you on that. I found their platform to be refreshing. And again, this is someone, I am Christian, I'm a Bible believer. But not only from that point, but just to have that voice, because I feel like the voice of faith-based people is very diminished in society right now. And so anyone, especially if they're saying they're going to base their political platform on biblical principles, make that the standard bearer, at the forefront, the focus. I love it. Alexis Tocqueville once said liberty, he was talking about liberty. He said, considers religion as the safeguard of morality, and morality as the best security of law, and the surest pledge of the duration of freedom. So again, we have these strong roots, biblical roots of our country. Why not make a focus of some of, if you're going to focus political candidates that also believe in the importance of this, and everything that they believe in stems from this moral, they have a moral background. I love it. I thought it was refreshing, and I thought it was something needed. What did you think about it, T? I know you're not religious. You've said that before. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not religious, but I have a very religious background, Christian. Matter of fact, I come from Pentecostal church in the South. So I understand how, and I actually agree with some of the things, because I'm not a religious, but I also believe that things should happen from nature, which is kind of the same thing, because God, he's the one who made us. He's, the reasons that we are supposed to have children, and, those same things is really the same thing that I believe. But I just feel like in this country, though, we're supposed to be free to have whatever religion we want to have. And I don't know how that would conflict when it comes to other religions, Muslim, Judaism, and all the other types of religions that are in this country, and people are free to have their own religions. Like, how would that conflict? So, I mean, I agree with the things, and I think that they are radical. And like you said, it's refreshing to have someone just stick to what they believe in the good morals in life. But how would that play out when it comes to other religions? Because Christianity clearly isn't the only religion in the country.
Well, let me ask you this, because one thing they did state, and this is just open to anyone, they mentioned that they felt, because again, these are people that they were Republicans, and the reason why they started this PAC is because they felt like the Republican Party has lost their way on principles, on morals. Republican Party used to be a place, and this is them, from them stating that where Christians, where faith-based people found a home, because a lot of the principles and standards were based on biblical or moral standards, and they felt like this is kind of going to the wayside. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you agree with that notion? Disagree?
I want to say, I'll answer that question this way. I know Yana mentioned John Adams, and you mentioned Alexis de Tocqueville. All fine, morality, but the thing is, I like T said, morality does not mean Christianity. And our system of government, our Constitution, albeit supported and founded on biblical Judeo-Christian principles, we do not have an established state religion, contrary to what Mr. Flynn said a few weeks ago. So that is not what we have. And
why do you keep saying that? Because they didn't say that. They didn't say they wanted to establish.
We do not have a state religion. We
Well,
have
free association. When did they say they were going to talk about?
No. I'm not saying this is what
Christians.
I'm not saying this is what last week KCP said. I'm saying some of the implications of them implementing their policies, they are going to conflict with other religious and or moral traditions. That's what I'm saying.
But what about when you hear, especially on the left, these leftist politicians basing their platforms on Marxism, or basing their platforms on socialism? What is the difference?
This is why we Republicans, conservatives, whether or not we're Christian or any other religious based on a morality-based religion, this is why we have to have the public square. We have to debate it out in the public square. So one religion cannot just, subsume and take over and mandate everything. We can't do that. I mean, as much as I might agree with them and their issues, in the real working out in the public square, we have to be in it.
I agree.
Be in what? What do you mean, be in what?
So we have to be in the public square debating out the issues. We have to have a moral basis, but it's not necessarily going to be dictated by just the Christian religion. Like, as you said, there are other traditions and faiths, and they're going to cause conflict. The conflict is inevitable. It's inevitable no matter what. There's conflict within Christianity and within different denominations.
But when we say that we have Judeo-Christian values to begin with, doesn't that mean that it was that our laws were dictated by the Bible?
Yeah, I'm not saying that our laws were not underpinned by the biblical standard or the biblical principles. That's not what I'm saying. But the biblical principles, a Judeo-Christian does not mean only Christian. Remember, the Bible has an Old Testament and a New Testament.
Well, that's the Judeo part.
Yeah, Judeo-Christian principles, not Judaism or Christianity as the religion of the state.
No, but you're double talking, because
no, I'm not.
Because the country was not the country did not start or stem from Muslim principles. From a Muslim,
I didn't say that. I didn't say
Christian, Judeo-Christian concept. So
exactly, we agree on that.
What's the difference? They're just
saying there are principles. There are principles, and there is a religion. And I'm saying to mandate or to have a state mandated religion, that is not our Constitution. That's not. We do have the principles.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that's what they were saying. I mean, we were trying to understand if that's what they meant, if that's what they want to do. But they did respond saying that no, we're not going to have a theocracy, but we will base our laws on the Bible, and our. They said that their candidates will be
that support.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm just wondering, if that's if that's really what they're saying, whether it's really going against our, our founding fathers, if that's what they wanted. It feels like that's what we were basing our Constitution from to begin with, and
Whatever
even
happened to the concept of separation of church and state, though?
Of what?
Whatever happened to the concept of separation of church and state? Like, where does that come in? I know they're saying they're supporting the Christian candidates, but how would that fit in the separation of church and state?
Which is why I asked the question about theocracy, and I was not, again, like I said, even last week, I wasn't saying that to mock them. Many of their issues and probably their stances I probably would agree on, or, at least some of them. However, our Constitution is based on Judeo-Christian principles. It is not based on mandating religions.
True.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just,
agree.
that's an interesting question. And I wonder if other religions, I mean, even people of other religions can be conservative as well. Like, for example, right now, I know that India, they have a very, so-called conservative government at this point as well. So, just because a person is not Christian, they can still support conservative values.
Right. That's what I mean. The principles and values that we are based on is not necessarily the religion I'm saying we as a country, our Constitution. Our Constitution does not mandate a specific religion, but we are based on Judeo-Christian principles.
True. That's true.
Well, I mean, sorry, I just wanted to add, I think it's also important that we remember that, because right now we do have this, like KJ said, we have this Marxist ideology that's literally, I'm finding out more and more how much has been pushed on this society, like for a long time now. And right now it's really exploding and we're seeing it everywhere. So we really have an attack on our basic values, and we got to do something about it.
It really boils down to good and evil at this point. It's not even about religion or whatever. It's good and evil, because they want to kill babies. They want to have the LGBT community, which is against nature. They want to, do things that are against nature, and it's really down to morality and principle.
And the direct counter to Marxism is religion. And I want to go back to something you said, T, about separation of church and state. I mean, the Establishment Clause in the Constitution is protection for citizens from the government intrusion on religious life. It is not something that's meant to encroach on religious people. Government is run by people of many faiths. I do, agree with that, but nowhere was it intended to keep religious life out of government. So we have to be careful with that, because a lot of people do use separation. They say, what about if you talk about religion? I can't talk about religion. I'm not saying you were doing that. What I'm saying, they say, you can't talk about religion because it's separation of church and state. When it was separation of church and state to actually help religious people, not to encroach on it.
It was more, and not only was that not in the Constitution, it was in a letter from Thomas Jefferson. But it was, like you said, KJ, it was more so to protect the people and to keep the power of free association in the hands of the people, not mandated by government. Someone asked last week when we were talking to KCP, the group last week, about whether or not they would vote for someone who shared their values but not their religion. And I see, this is where, I don't know who it was who asked that, and I'm not even sure we delved into it, but this is where it gets down to, if I vote for someone may share my values, putting murderers in jail, death penalty, or pro-life, things like that, but they may not be a Christian, or they may not even be a Jew. But would I vote for that person? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to definitely keep watch on them. If you guys want more information, definitely check out their website, Kingdom Conservative Party, and find out more information regarding that. They were on last week's show, so you can also check out our YouTube for the full episode on that. And they went into great detail about what they are all about. All right, so we are moving right along to our next, one of our next most popular clips. Take a look at this.
Those to understand the importance of building independent Black beachheads that are not reliant on those corporate forces that do this work of curating who gets to have a platform.
So in other words, you're saying we need a Black Trump.
Not saying that.
Yeah, so that was a clip. That was like early in the year when we had the gentleman on from Leaders of a Black Struggle. And we talked about what I want to hone in on is what, I mentioned. Baltimore needs a Black Trump. And in that clip, he was mentioning how a lot of the politicians in Baltimore are beholden to the machine. Everybody knows one another. Everybody's greasing each other's palms. And so when I said, well, we need a Black Trump, someone who, has their own money, not, tied to the old class of Democrat, right, politics. So I want to get your thoughts on that. Let's start with you, Shelly.
So, wow, that was a while. It doesn't seem like it was over almost a year ago, but it was. So, yeah, I forget his name, but you notice he kind of laughed too. But what I thought about was that we had a similar moment with former Mayor Sheila Dixon when we pressed her on the issues, and she was saying a lot of the policies that Republicans uphold, education, homeschooling, private education, school vouchers, some of the same policies that we have in Baltimore put forth by the Democrat Party, the predominantly Democratic Party, predominantly Black Democrats or whatever, are not working. So, but when you press these people on the issues, not on their emotions, not, remove the D and the R, we sort of, at least it seems like with these two guests, that we land very much on the same page, but yet our city does not show a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And the question is, how do we make that connection where the residents realize, we are Republicans, but we want this city to thrive. We have fresh ideas, new ideas to make these things happen. How do we make that connection? I want to go to you, Yana. What did you think about that clip?
Well, it was interesting to see his reaction when you said like the word Trump. He's like, "Oh no, that's not what I meant." And I don't know why they're so scared of that. I mean, it just means an independent person who's independent, like you said, of that machine. He's not relying on somebody else sponsoring them. And I think, to get people to listen, I mean, we have to talk about things that matter to them, and like education comes to mind. We've been talking about how terrible education has been in Baltimore City, where children are literally not learning how to read and write. And so we need someone who will come and change that, and that parents will have choice for their children where they will go to school, and they'll have opportunities to maybe homeschool and have support for that, and have people who can maybe come and help and tutor them in their homes. Like, I work with kids, and kids need so much support right now, and we need people who care about the new generation of people of Baltimore.
Exactly. I want to go to you, T. What are your thoughts on that clip?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, as Yana said, we need people who are listening, but people are listening. I run into people on the street, in my inboxes, everywhere I go. I actually talk to people on the ground, and they actually agree. Like Mayor Dixon, they actually agree with a lot of the conservative principles, like in the grocery, anywhere, no matter where I go, people, but they don't want to be in the open with it. For some reason, like it's a hush-hush society or something. They don't want to agree in the open, but they get me and like, hey, I really do agree with you. And I'm like, you're a coward. So why wouldn't you want to agree openly with conservative values? Because it's better for society to do it that way. And then two, here we are in Baltimore City. I was speaking to a new restaurant owner in the area, and I asked him what made him want to open up his restaurant in Baltimore City. And he said, because there's a lot of thriving Black people here. We have Black people in leadership. We have Black politicians. And I was like, but what are they doing? What are they doing for their constituents? What are they doing for Black people? And I'm yet to have an answer to that. They just get so excited because there are Black people here doing their thing, but they're not really doing anything but taking up their space in the seat that they are in. They're not really actually doing anything for Black people other than coddling them still. So it's that. It's like they agree with the conservative principles, and then they're glad that, you know, we have Black people, or, you know, this is a thriving Black city, but nobody is nothing is happening. It's stagnated.
Yeah, we have to get out of this skin worship. We do. We have to get out of the skin worship. And I hate to go back to, you know, KCP, but that is something that they were pushing. And for all that talk they did about, you know, Christianity being the base of their candidates, one thing they said was, it's not about color. It's not about ethnicity. You know, and again, that's an actual Christian, you know, goal. It's not about, you know, your color of your skin, and we really need to start looking into that in Baltimore City, because again, like T said, we have been run into the dirt by Black people, and
what T just said actually made me think of Kamala when she was talking to Charlemagne. Was it Charlemagne the God?
Oh yeah.
And when he asked her that question, who is the real president, and he was asking her that question, and she said something like, "You better not sound like a Republican." Right. And I thought, like, wow, like she just told him, like, you better not, you know, like stay in line.
Makes sense. How dare you make sense and ask questions?
What is it?
That's what they think.
Yeah. How dare you make sense and ask questions?
Right. Or like, you better not. Like it was almost like, you know, like he was a student or something, or like a little boy. And, you know, they like controlling people, and they, you know, and when
it almost sounds like almost if you change Republicans to Blacks or Asians, it almost takes you back to like, don't mix, you know, stay separate, you know, don't mix.
Well, what's his name? 46. Biden, he said that to Charlemagne, I think, right? You know, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black, or you ain't Black. Yeah. But two things. You mentioned like the race, and Tyrone was just talking about economics. If Black people, yes, if Black people stop focusing on race and start focusing on economics, we would be in a whole different ball game. We would be in a whole different ball game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know. So going back to the Trump thing too, actually, you know, these same people that I'm talking to, they actually like Trump. These are like, some of them are like street dudes. So they were like, they like Trump because he kept it real, and it reminded them of the people that they're, you know, we can always trust somebody who gives us what it is in our face instead of lying to us behind our backs. So that's what we like Trump, because he tells us how he feels, and we don't have to second guess what he's saying. And that's how it kind of is in the streets. Like, it's an honor code in the streets.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's about authenticity. It's about being genuine. Right. That's one thing about the street. Right. If you come in the street with some fakeness of, you know, acting like a certain way, people see it. They see it quickly, and you can get hurt because of that. So again, and I think, like you mentioned, I know street guys who like Trump because of that. So again, guys, we're going down our most popular clips. If you want to actually go back to these shows and see exactly the whole show, it's on our YouTube at Metro Conservative Media. Definitely check that out, and you can go through some of our old shows because they were really good.
It's a lot of them. We got a whole year of shows. Our year anniversary.
Absolutely, a whole year. So definitely take a look. Also, while you're watching this, share this link. Share this if you're watching on Facebook, quickly share it to your news feed so different people can see it. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely comment and share this YouTube video with your family and friends. We are trying to grow a movement. And if you've been watching with us all year long, you're part of that movement. So let's grow together. All right. So we are moving right along to our next clip. Take a look at this.
with his stance and what he was trying to say. I think it didn't come off, like it didn't really come out right. Like when he said, I would like to have someone like that in my neighborhood. Like, I do not know if people want that, like the person who would really like follow somebody and, you know, kind of like go a little bit overboard with his like policing. But what he was saying,
I would. I would. I want
Okay.
somebody who is brave enough and has the courage enough to go out and follow people. And I'm not going to relitigate the Trayvon Martin case. He's deceased. I'm sure his family grieves him, as they should. I think Larry Elder may not have said, or maybe didn't come across like you said, Yana. I agree. However, at what point are we going to acknowledge, again, our emotions can get in the way? Yeah. Do we want safer communities or not? Notwithstanding this George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case in particular, but do we want safer communities or not? Do we want people, men out in the community, policing our areas for our children, our women? Yes, I do.
Woo!
Shelly.
Okay, I would. I knew that was coming.
He was waiting for that.
That was coming.
He was waiting for it.
I was just thinking, I was like, when is she gonna wait for Yana to? Because she was sitting over there like, I would. Oh man, so if you guys did not see that show, definitely go back and watch that show. That was a heated show. But what I want to kind of single in on is we were talking about neighborhood, vigilantes, neighborhood watchmen. And then, of course, we just finished with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, who was kind of, doing along the same lines as the Zimmerman case. A little different, but similarly. So, again, we know Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty for self-defense in was it Michigan or Wisconsin? I can't remember where it was. But Wisconsin. Okay. So want to get you guys' thoughts on that. Do we need more Kyle Rittenhouses in Baltimore City? We're going to start with you, Shelly.
Yes. So I think so. Granted, again, the particular cases or the particular individuals, I think we need that type, if you will, or that mindset of protecting families, communities, certainly protecting yourself in Baltimore. Because guess what? Our politicians, our elected people are not doing their jobs. At some point, people are going to, well, not even at some point, it is instinctual. It is built in to protect yourself and your family. It's a given. And the worse Baltimore becomes, the more likely we are going to have people who are taking their own safety into their own hands.
Yeah. I want to move to you, Yana, because when you talk to a lot of Baltimoreans, which is a predominantly Democrat city, and in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, for example, was split. But usually Republicans were happy he got off, and then Democrats, for the most part, as far as the media, were not happy, felt like he should have been convicted. So why, though? Why when you look at a case like that, why wouldn't people in Baltimore City want someone like Kyle Rittenhouse to go down and protect their neighborhoods and stop all this crime, or help to stop all this crime? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think different people might have different reasons, and maybe they just don't trust vigilantes. Because, I mean, for example, in the cases of Rittenhouse and Zimmerman, they are a bit different. So in case of Zimmerman, he was actually following somebody, and and in terms of Rittenhouse, he was not following those guys. Like, they were following him and they were attacking him. So that's why he was found not guilty. So, I mean, maybe that's what people are worried about. That would be one of the reasons that there could be some instigation from those vigilantes or like the community watch. Also, it could be that I don't know, they've got something to hide, or they do not, they do not want police. A lot of times, they do not want the neighborhood watch, because there's something they do not want people to find out what they're up to. But I think we do need honest people who can watch the neighborhoods and report if there is something going on. At least, maybe don't go out there yourself, because that is dangerous. That could be dangerous for you and for everybody else. But at least get the authorities involved if there's something going on. And we had this horrible case recently with Officer Holly, that she was ambushed and killed. And I heard that there were people that were around her car saying, "Do not help her." And it's tragic, that we do not have people in the communities who actually care for the community and can protect the citizens.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts on this, T? When we kind of look at that clip, we were talking about Zimmerman, of course, but then when you take it back to what currently happened with Kyle Rittenhouse, do you see the comparison? And then as far as what we have going on in Baltimore City, do we need a Kyle Rittenhouse or more Kyle Rittenhouses in Baltimore?
What we need is the Black Panthers. What we need is the people who are in the communities to be the ones in the communities, to be the ones that people trust. Because that's the thing, like Yana said, people don't trust the blue now. We don't trust cops. They don't trust the law. Well, Black people, if any. And then we've been lied to so much. We've been lied to where we can't trust them, because here we have these cases where people were shot by the cops, and they have their own rhetoric when it comes or narrative when it comes to the cops and everything. But if we had our own that are policing our own communities, and not really in the case of Zimmerman, I'm not even comparing the two, because to me they're not even comparable. But in the case of not Zimmerman types, the ones who want to be cops and doing too much, but the ones that people actually trust in the communities and have been there and lived there and they know who they are, I don't think we'd have as much. And I think that's what the left really wanted to say when they said defund the police. I think, they were looking for something like that. But I really think that it would help if it were people in the community that we trust, that we know that can police or somehow monitor or something.
Okay. Yeah, well, definitely. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you guys, if definitely go back to our YouTube and check out the full show of that one. It was definitely a heated show and one of our top moments. All right, so we are moving right along to our next. Oh, we do have a comment here. Let's see here. Oh, Giovanni Patterson, the first police are fathers, which have been deleted. That's true. We don't have many fathers in the neighborhood.
And I wonder why. Maybe we'll talk about that in our next clip.
Right, well, yeah. We can do a whole show on that.
we have said why, because we don't agree why, but we said
right. Yeah. So we definitely going to have to go back to that, revisit it. But moving right along, take a look at this clip.
You said earlier that I think you said the left doesn't have any values. I think that is a common mistake that conservatives make, to say that the left have. They have
no, I said we have values.
I'm sorry. They have values. They have values. They are just the opposite, the stark opposite of conservative values. Everybody.
I think it's
values.
just to be rebellious, almost. Like a lot of the values on the left are just to be rebellious.
Not only that, but
traditionalism.
They have a creed. I would call it a creed, because right. Yeah, they have a creed, and they're trying to push this on everyone. And if you go against it, you are evil, you are wrong, you need to be removed. And so what do? They sick the FBI. They sick the FBI. Can you imagine?
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. They sick the FBI, and now you have CRT all throughout the schools. It's crazy. what are your thoughts on this, Shelly?
So again, I said this many times, and I say it because I really mean it. But the leftism does nothing to do, or only comes to destroy and to kill and to steal. They will steal your joy. They will steal the community or the family stability. They destroy people, families, children, and they definitely cause death and mayhem. Look at our streets. Look at the major cities across the country. So I am no friend of the left. Their values are starkly different than ours, of preserving life, maintaining the family stability, again, for the protection and the rearing of children. So the left is nothing but evil, in my opinion. There's no way we can meet the two. Moderate people, reasonable people, yes. Nothing on the left do we ever have in common.
All right. And speaking of the left, I want to show you guys this clip from Nicole Hannah-Jones. She is, left on as left as you can get. She, of course, she was a leader of the 1619 Project, which offers a view of American history that says the U.S. was founded upon racism, and that 1619 should be the year. That was the year the first slave ships arrived from Africa, should be viewed as the true founding of America, which actually helped her land a tenured position at Howard University. Take a look at what she says about parents in schools.
I don't really understand this idea that parents should decide what's being taught. I'm not a professional educator. I don't have a degree in social studies or science. We send our children to school because we want them to be taught by people who have expertise in the subject area. And that is not my job. When the governor or the candidate said that he didn't think parents should be deciding what's being taught in school, he was panned for that. But that's just the fact. This is why we send our children to school and don't homeschool, because these are the professional educators who have the expertise to teach social studies, to teach history, to teach science, to teach literature. And I think we should leave that to the educators. Yes,
Isn't that the dumbest thing I ever heard? First of all, you dummy. She's on the 1619 Project. What is she talking about?
She's lying.
American history.
She's lying that she's not well, she came up with 1619 Project, and it's being put in the curriculum. So she's part of, she's telling what the kids should be learning. So what is she saying that, I don't get involved? No, yes, she does, a whole lot.
Exactly. And because she has gotten so much involved, you had this pushback all across Virginia against this CRT education. What are your thoughts on this, T?
I don't even understand, what was her point? What she was trying to say, that we should send our children to school and not teach them ourselves?
Well, she did say that. She went on to say that. Mm-hmm. One thing she did say that wasn't in that clip was she said, why is why we send our children to school and don't homeschool them. So she's definitely against. Yeah. She did say that. I couldn't think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's basically arguing that, when you had all these parents, particularly in Virginia, but actually across the country, who are at PTA meetings, standing up for their kids about pornography that was being taught to children, about CRT, which they disagreed with. She's basically saying that parents shouldn't have a say in this education system.
That doesn't even make sense. That she is stupid if that's what she's saying, because of course parents are actually we the ones who have power over the school system. I mean, a lot of times we don't use it. Or we just let the school do what they want, but we can actually control what our children are. If we come in groups, we can control what our children are learning in the curriculum. But that's stupid. Who is she?
You said the right word, T. It's about control. And it's about who has the locus of control over children. So to the left, children are just basically more people to add to under the state control. The left does not want parents They don't even trust parents to raise their own children. They trust you to have them and to give them over to the state. Nicole Hannah-Jones, now she has I think a professorship at UNC in North Carolina.
I thought she was at Howard.
She's at a professorship in journalism, no less, right? Journalism. She's going to be teaching journalism when her whole book and theory is based on, it's not even a theory. Her book and premise is based on a lie, okay? So she's going to be teaching the future generations of journalism. But the left I heard a definition of a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember who said it, but conservatives, we get all in this tizzy about when we hear the word indoctrination. Well, guess what? We need to take that back. We do believe in indoctrination. We want to indoctrinate our children in truth and righteousness and morals, good morals, and the left wants to indoctrinate them in other ways. So they're going to be indoctrinated. Indoctrinated, break it down. It just means to teach, to instill values, to instill doctrine. But the left does not want to do that. The left wants to instill doctrine that, tears down, destroys, and steals. That's what they want.
Yes. And it's not even about, it's not about objective teaching, math, science, things like this. They want to get into other areas of children's, sex ed. We were just talking about last week where in a sex education class in I think it was Baltimore City, a young girl brought down, the paper that said what they were going to be teaching in sex education class. And the top half of what she was going to be taught as it deals with sex education was LGBTQ. Yep. This is ridiculous. Sex education should be about biology. LGBTQ has nothing to do with biology. So, and why would they? And even if I want to go so far and say, okay, you want to include that in, that's what you're starting with. You don't start with, the birds, the meat, sex education and biology and things like that.
And
speaking of schools, like I was telling you guys. I was in orientation. It was the virtual orientation with another school here in Baltimore City with my children a couple of weeks ago. And one of the principals, she came up with some class because the principal teaches one class. She actually came up with a class, a history of LGBT as a history class. And they're teaching that. And then on the class, they're like, oh, the students that are on here, we want you to introduce yourselves and your pronouns. Like, this is all in the school system that they're doing now. And it's like, what do we do like I said, we do have the control, but homeschooling is probably the best option at this point.
And so this makes me think of our first question that we had today about the separation of church and state. So, at this point, it is so separated that it's like we have no church whatsoever, and so we have the opposite. We have the hell now that is being taught. Like, we have complete Satanism that is being taught in schools, and because it's just that separation is very, very stark. Like, we can't even say that this is wrong, that we do not want the kids to learn about this, because it's like, oh, but how could you even say that? And
how dare the children even say anything against it? Because then they'll be bullied and they'll be put out the school. Heck, who knows?
Right. And it makes me think of, so again, in the beginning of 20th century in the Soviet Union, I remember seeing these slogans that said, don't listen to your grandma who wants to take you to church, go to school. That was literally the slogan. So the school was something that was promoted as, the opposite of religion, of tradition. And so that's what they're doing. And if the parents don't take control of this, we will lose the children, we'll lose the country, because this is what they're doing. Like, the children are it's a mold. They can mold them however way they want.
Right.
Wow,
right.
That's scary.
And the religious schools, the Catholic schools and religious schools aren't any better.
You have to be involved. You have to be involved.
I don't know about that.
You have to be involved.
No. Wouldn't you know, for example, wouldn't you know, KJ?
Yeah, I think the Catholic schools are better. And believe me, this is coming from someone
Not getting
who
better.
I guess it just depends.
Depends on which school.
It depends on what school. But I grew up, again, I'm not Catholic. But I don't know why, but my mom, she always would say, I don't want you guys going to Catholic school, da da da. So I didn't have a very favorable view of Catholic schools for some reason. And then, I became a mom, and my son went to, he was in private school, and he went to, it was a non-denominational private school, and they were pushing this progressive LGBTQ, agenda in elementary school. And so, but I talked to friends who had their kids in Catholic schools, and they weren't getting any of this stuff. And so then finally I toured, I went and toured, and I realized again, and I told them of what happened, the situation that happened with my son at the previous school. And the school administrator, he said, "Oh, we would never do anything like that." And I'll be short, but the teacher introduced a book to my son. This was when he was in third grade, talking about two boys kind of getting together. It was called The Prince and the Knight. And so you can kind of guess what that was about. And they did this without any notice to parents. And so when I went to the Catholic school and I told them, the man was shocked. He was like, we would never do that. We don't get involved with that. That's for a parent to do. And then I just started getting more information about it. And so I'm realizing that, and again, maybe this was just this Catholic school, I don't know, but they follow a more traditional concept when talking about education.
It depends on the school. Right. It depends on the school and parents, whatever school you have to, certainly public schools, but private schools, even private religious schools, can be corrupted because leftism has corrupted every institution we have, from the family on up, including religious institutions. But you have to be involved. When my daughter was in public school in her initial school years, I was the vice president of the PTA. I substituted. I was in the school at least 2 or 3 times a week in the office. They knew me. The children knew me. And so, and the teachers, and I was I was just like I am now. I didn't back down because of their titles or because of they were teachers. No, if I had a problem, they knew you have to go to Shelly E. That's my daughter's mom. So, and they knew that I would come to them. Didn't have a problem with that. But when it got to the point where the middle school years, right before middle school, I pulled her out, and she's in a private Christian school. And I do know, as a matter of fact, I'm on the parent board there, or whatever. But I do know what is taught at her school. I do know that. And I know that the LGBT, homosexuality, all that stuff I know that's not taught there.
And that's really important, that parents have to actually check what is being taught. I don't think everybody's checking. I think a majority of them have no idea. And they really got to check. Like, for example, there were complaints about this one book. It was called The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I don't know
it's a movie.
In a book that was assigned to like middle schoolers, and it literally describes rape. It describes homosexual relationships with that, like in detail, between teenagers. And the parents were outraged in multiple districts, and in some districts they took it out of the curriculum. But for example, in Wallington, Connecticut, it was put back into the curriculum. So it was taken out, and then there was some deliberation, and they decided that the kids should be reading that.
And what grade was this?
This was, I gotta check. I believe that it was middle school.
Yeah.
But even if it's high, I mean, it depends. Like parents should still have a say and decide like whether they want something like this, because I mean it's one thing that kids choose to read something like this at their own time, and another is when the teachers are assigning that.
Yeah.
And look,
It's
and I
tough.
have to say, I'm not anti. No, I am anti-public school by and large now. But I graduated from public school K through 12, right? And the education at that time was vastly different. I still remember my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Pony, teaching us how to do our income taxes. And one of his mantras still sticks with me. If you owe taxes, that's a good thing, because that means the government did not have your money all year and make interest off of it. So
you're talking about a totally different time period.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 20s and 30s. You were in elementary. So you're gonna have totally sorry, I was joking. No. But yeah, I am too. I am a product of public school from preschool all the way up. So yeah, it's a totally different world, and a lot of people don't know. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't, I thought you sent up. This was my mother and father. They sent us to school, and my parents were involved. My parents were working, so they did send us to school, but they pretty much was just like, they unless something really was going out of the ordinary, and they felt like the school had our best interest in heart. But now it's like they don't have it. So
look, the building in the Baltimore City School Board. I'm sorry, T. The Baltimore City School Board building on North Avenue is named after the superintendent when I was in elementary school. Alice Penderhughes would be rolling in her grave right now if she saw the current state of education right now.
Well,
I think the teachers cared a bit more. The teachers and administrators cared a bit more than they do today. Now, I think children aren't the best, first of all. So the teachers are like, I'm just here to do my job and get paid.
You're right. Well, we are moving right along to our final clip of the evening. I want you guys to take a look.
The need to be helping anybody learn. I mean, the opportunities are there to learn. There's immigrants that come here. They don't even know what redlining is. And they do end up a lot of times, originally when they first arrived to this country, they end up in the poorest neighborhoods of this country. And actually, a lot of times they turn them around.
So is there ways to address those wrongs? And again, like redlining, unable to get mortgages or get them at good rates.
So we have to catch up. We have to catch up.
It's amazing to hear that, because we have people here who are coming into this country without speaking English at all. And they're able to work and save, and they have buy houses within years of coming to this country, barely speaking English. So
and they practice group economics.
I mean, come on, 200 years ago.
All right. So I want to start with UT on this one, because you were trying to say something in that clip, and we didn't get what you were saying. So you were saying something about to catch up or group economics. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, particularly the Black community. There are other ethnic communities that come here and do much better than us, and we've been here for 500 years now, I think. And I think that we still we're so busy trying to be oppressed that we haven't thought about catching up. Other countries or other ethnicities, they come here, they practice group economics, they live together, they do whatever, they build their own communities, there are systems in place, even when they come here, that happens where they sponsor each other or help each other somehow. But everybody here, I mean, we want to do, we have a crab mentality, they want to say, but we don't help each other. We don't practice anything collectively. We want to do everything on our own. And when there's someone who wants to do that or has a different state of or mentality to practice group economics or do something different, we want to talk about them. We want to cancel them. We don't really understand how this thing works with other ethnicities and how to actually build up our own communities instead of tearing it down. I mean, people want to say, oh, you're a Black person hater or whatever, but I'm just like, no, we just don't do what we need to do to get up. We want to be left behind.
All right. And I want to talk to you. I want to go to you, Shelly, about something T just said. We want to be left behind. In the comment that was just here, Giovanni Patterson, we did practice group economics in the past. We decided government daddy was better. You agree with those statements? Is this something we're deciding? Or are we making conscious decisions on these types of?
Kanye West said it. He said
What did he say?
we were slaves. We were slaves because we wanted to be, basically, and we still are. We're oppressed because we want to be.
Yeah, I think there's something to this idea, at least this mentality of being oppressed or being a victim. How we saw, what's his name, Juicy. You know, he concocted a whole scheme to be a victim. But you know, when you're a victim, you get attention. You get the services, you get the whatever the benefits may be, and there is a place for a safety net, if you will, but it should not be from cradle to grave, right? It should not be that our communities, and I'm saying our meaning a lot of Black communities, particularly in the inner cities across the country, look at our status. At some point, we have to step back and tell the government, or just like Jason Riley said in his book, please stop helping us. We need to turn inward. Again, that locus of control. If we keep it externally, then the benefits, we're not going to reap any of the benefits. But if we turn it internally, we will have benefits for generations to come.
Okay. And I want to go to you, Yana, because what you were comparing the immigrant story, or how immigrants come over here and make a living versus people in poverty or urban communities who continue generational poverty. And so, is that something that you can compare, where you have people who have been living generation after generation after generation in poverty? Would you say, and I don't want to use the word easy, but for lack of a better word, is it as easy for them to get out of this cycle as it is for an immigrant who may come over here in poverty to start anew? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's as easy. It's definitely different. And I mean, every immigrant is different, and every person in those, the poorer communities is different. So I don't know which one is really easier. It's because it's really, so for immigrants, for example, we have to leave everything behind. Like, we have to literally just forget about our home and learn something totally new. And but the thing is that I can't understand where the difference is and why it's maybe in some ways easier for the immigrants, because I had that conversation with someone, and I understood that years ago that immigrants come here and they do have this huge history that they bring with themselves, and they come with this national pride. A lot of times they have this community, a lot of times that they join. And when you look at the Black community in particular in America, there is definitely something that's lacking in terms of the pride and the history that maybe people haven't learned or haven't realized. And so there is work that needs to be done by the Black community to understand like where they stand and what can be done. So, but it doesn't mean constantly going back and blaming the past or blaming somebody else for what has happened. So redlining, for example, was banned 50 years ago. So there's has to be time for history, and there's time for looking forward, and realizing that with looking forward, you might have to give up some of the things, like immigrants, like we had to give up so much, including our part of our identity, so we can move forward and learn a new identity and acquire maybe things that are good for us and is more positive for our development in the future.
Yeah. One thing you did mention, and I know we have to wrap up, but was the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
The mindset. So you have two different cultures One, the immigrant who they have to have a mindset of victory, of accomplishment, of a fight in them. Hard work, because they're going through that, coming over here.
And it's only moving forward. Like there's no way back. Like I mean, yes, immigrants, some of them can go back, but most of them they don't go back.
Right.
So there's only one way.
Right. But then when you look at Black community, or the Black community that is in poverty, and its generational cycle, the mindset, that fighting spirit, that mindset of possibility that immigrants have, they're all coming over here with a mindset of possibility. But when you look at these impoverished communities, that mindset of impossibility is not there. Even here in Baltimore, you have this, and I think Giovanni Patterson has said before, this notion of I can't remember what he used to say, where it's impossible. We're just moving along. Oh, that's not going to change. Nothing's going to change. And they continue this generation after generation, and there's no mindset of possibility. And I think that plays.
I would push back a little bit on what you say. I think I understand what you're saying, but up until at least I would say the 60s, Black people, our ancestors, did have that mentality, because look at the progress and the all the forward thinking that they achieved, right? That's number one. Number two, I would also say in the Black community, we have billions of dollars that we spend elsewhere. I think it was Maggie Anderson in her book, I forget the name of the book, Our Black Year, something like that. It said that for every dollar in other ethnic communities, the dollar cycles through that community maybe 6 to 13 times. In the Black community, it is not even there for an hour. So we have the resources. It's just a matter of what we do with them.
Yeah, I agree. T, did you want to comment on there?
I just think that, Mr. Keys said earlier about the Nigerians, they're the most progressive one when it comes to being, top finance. I don't know. I remember this statistic.
They have the highest degrees,
masters, right?
And jobs, like very high paying jobs.
Right. So, and I think that's kind of why a lot of Native Africans or whatever, African immigrants, they don't respect African Americans or the Black Americans, because they're like, you're here, you have everything. Why haven't you progressed? What is your problem? We come here with nothing, basically, and here we are, getting these masters, getting the jobs, becoming doctors, becoming lawyers, and everything. And it is a mindset, and I really don't know what it is. Like I can't even place my fingers on what it is that keeps them oppressed. And we have these other ethnicities, and on the other hand, contrarily, like we have all these programs or whatever, welfare. And Eva, you mentioned, Shelly, you mentioned in the 60s. And that's around the time that we started getting these welfare programs, if I'm not correct, right? That's around the time we started getting things. And so we have these other ethnicities that come and they take advantage of these same things, but they somehow progress and move forward. And I don't understand what it is.
I think we've had it too easy. I think we've had it too easy, and we've had it too good. And I think, I am thankful for what our ancestors did, but I would say the baby boomer generation, starting with post-World War II generation, our parents and grandparents made it too easy. When I hear people say, even today, "Oh, I don't want my child to have to do what I did or whatever." Well, what did you do that was so bad? You actually earned your way. You worked, you saved, you scrimped, you sacrificed. What is wrong with those values?
Right.
And each generation is even more entitled.
And you have to be careful when the government is trying to make things easy. So it makes me think of so not every immigrant has it easy here. So most of the time when immigrants come here, it's very difficult to even rent an apartment because you have no credit history, you have really shaky employment. So it's really, really hard. That's what they have to like rent from individuals, or stay in one apartment, many of them. But one thing that I thought about is, for example, we have lots of Spanish speaking immigrants, and the government has made it so easy for Spanish speaking immigrants to apply for things, because everything is in Spanish. So they can work only speaking Spanish, they can call for services only speaking Spanish. And what's happening
They can
is
have
that
their
they don't learn. I was teaching English to immigrants, and I had students, Spanish speaking students, who were here for 20 years, and they were at very limited English. And so that keeps them actually at a lower class level because they cannot get higher paying jobs. And so when something that's made supposedly easier, we now see that there's immigrants who actually cannot move up because of that.
Yeah, we will definitely continue to talk about this. We are at the end of our time. I want to end tonight on just some last comments from you guys as far as going into 2022. We're closing out the year in a couple of days, and just want to get just some closing comments from each of you. I'll start with you, Shelly. What do you want to focus on as going into 2022?
Wow. I would say, I know this sounds pat, or I would say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
All right. Yana, what's something you want to focus on, or for the movement for yourself?
So personally, I mean, I want to focus on health and wealth in the next year. It's really important. For the world, I want to see more common sense. I want to see more freedom and less tyranny that we've been experiencing this past year.
All right. And what about you, T?
I want to see less excuses. Myself and just like we can whatever. It's great.
I'm sorry, breaking up. Can you repeat that? You were breaking up there. Oh, I think we lost.
I just said let's talk doing.
Okay. Okay. All right. You know what? At the end of every year, many of us make resolutions. Did you finish, T? Okay. I was gonna say at the end of every year, many of us make resolutions of what we are going to do in the year to come, and kind of proclaim goals and focus for the new year.
I just said let's.
Oh, I think yes. Yeah, your connection is bad, T. Okay. Or is it my connection? Can you guys hear T?
Okay.
No, I think she has a delay.
Yeah, I think she has a delay. You're fine, KJ. Keep on. You're going.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I would say at the end of every year, we make resolutions, we make goals on things we can focus on for the new year. But I want to do something different this year. I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to do. I am not going to live in fear. Fear of the virus, fear of cancel culture, fear of institutions, authoritarian laws, edicts, and mandates. I will not. And I hope you won't too, because it was not fear that started the first colonies. It was not fear that catapulted the civil rights advocates. It was not fear that caused, that pushed immigrants to come over here and start new lives. And the Bible says that God did not give us the spirit of fear. So, all you guys watching and my fellow co-hosts, I challenge all of us to do the same as we move into 2022. Do not live in fear. Do not do it. And I know I certainly will not do it. I'm going to live my life, live it to the fullest. I'm not going to hibernate for the winter because of this virus. I'm going to go out. I'm going to celebrate my friends. I'm going to celebrate myself and just live. So again, this brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. A whole year we've been doing this for a year.
Congratulations, KJ, yes. Giovanni.
Yes,
congratulations. The whole National Conservative team.
I know, conservatives, we are on the movement. I just want to say you guys are the best. You motivate me, help me. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
Oh.
But you guys really do. I've learned so much from you guys. And
KJ, stop it.
You motivate me to be a better person. So in different ways. So I just thank you all for joining me on this journey. Sorry. Yes. Continue the conversation by checking us out on YouTube, Twitter,
and we Facebook. Actually like each other. That's the greatest thing. Like on and off air, we actually like each other.
Our audience does not know we have so much chemistry when we're on the set together.
Yes, we do. So we will be back. We'll be back in the studio before you guys know it. So again, continue to watch. We are an independent media, and each time you subscribe, it helps to make our voice much stronger. Sorry. It's like once I start crying, I can't stop. Check us out on the web.
This is a big deal, though. 1 year, like a year ago, I remember a little over a year ago, you hit us up in our inbox like, "Hey, ladies, we're starting this show. We want y'all to be a member or a host on there." And look at us now, like a whole year, and we're all still here. The ones who's supposed to be here.
Yes, we are. So
yes, it's been an amazing year. I'm so glad that I met you guys and I started mid-year, but it's I've learned so much from you guys too.
Yes, what a great addition. And Xandria, she's not here tonight, but definitely
baby girl Xandria.
She has been awesome. Every one of you guys is so awesome, and
our listeners, our viewers have been here for the whole year too.
Yes,
my mama.
Yes. Our viewers and also the new viewers. We've gotten a bunch of new viewers within the latter half of the year. Thank you so much for joining us along this journey. We have so far to go. And 2022 is going to be an exciting year. And so definitely stick with us. Continue to share our videos, share our content.
Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. Check us out on the web, www.metroconservativemedia.com. We have a new website coming up. We have new marketing materials coming out soon. So definitely keep yourselves posted and subscribe so you get up-to-date content and information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment.
And we should also mention our producers.
Yes.
Right.
Giovanni,
guys in the back.
And all the guys, and Steven,
yes.
the social media guru.
Yes, indeed. We have so behind the scenes people that help us. So again,
so we actually not help. Actually, the men lead here. Actually, we're the front runners, but the men in the back are the ones who do everything. Okay,
right,
and we listen to them.
Right, that's true. So, at this point, we will see you next year. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose.
Happy New Year, everybody!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!